One of the more interesting things about this guy is it packs a flagship grade Kirin 980 chipset and a main quad camera setup for a pleasingly competitive. Something I forgot to mention earlier was you do get a notification light found in the earpiece. It's definitely a welcome novelty at this point, as we've been slowly seeing this feature disappear from Android smartphones. Then there's the punch hole placement on the top left corner, which technically isn't new in the Nova series. Some of you may remember the Nova 4 had the same punch hole placement, but I guess most of you will find it reminiscent of Samsung's S10 series. The quality is that with an IPS panel, colors from the Nova 5T look natural with great viewing angles. As for the audio, the single downward firing speaker produces a loud and crisp sound. Bass is weak though, which isn't all too surprising, but it's good enough for media consumption as long as you don't cover the speaker grill with your palm. So the Nova 5T runs an Android 9 Pie skin with EMUI 9.1. That's the one also found in Huawei's most recent devices. We're not total fans of EMUI, but we still found it relatively clean and highly customizable. We don't get any pre-installed apps aside from the usual Google apps and services, which is good. And if you're a fan of dark mode, well, I'm sorry, but this phone doesn't have a natively supported dark mode feature, probably because it doesn't have an OLED panel like some of its more powerful P and Mate cousins. Now, when it comes to storage, this variant comes with 128 gigs of internal storage. Okay, things get more interesting as we talk about performance. Under the hood of the Nova 5T is a high silicon Kirin 980 with an octa-core CPU, Mali G76 MP10 GPU, and 8 gigs of RAM. Not to mention that it also has GPU Turbo 3.0 on board for you mobile gamers. It's the same hardware that's powering the Huawei P30 Pro and Mate 20 Pro, so technically, the 5T performs at a flagship level. And as expected, the phone can handle everything we throw at it excellently. It was able to run PUBG Mobile in its highest settings without any loss in fluidity, although it can get warm at the back near the cameras. But not to a point of causing any trouble or discomfort. To be specific, under the highest PUBG Mobile settings, the warmest temperature we got was 35.4 degrees Celsius. Benchmarks weren't disappointing either. We performed 2 sets of benchmarks, one in normal mode and one in performance mode, to see how much computing power the Nova 5T can provide when handling basic and heavy tasks. These numbers show the difference in performance, and surprisingly, it even topped the scores of the P30 Pro and Mate 20 Pro in our past reviews. When it comes to security, you can unlock the phone via face recognition or the fingerprint scanner that doubles as a power button. Like most mid-range phones, both work well, but the fingerprint scanner is more reliable since the face unlock can get a little slow in low lighting conditions. Not to mention, it's also more secure. Keeping this phone running is a 3750 mAh battery with Huawei's 22.5 watt supercharge. We were kinda expecting a bigger 4000 mAh cell, but despite that, we still got around 9 to 10 hours of mixed usage. In our standard video loop test, we got 15 hours of total playback. As for charging, we were able to replenish the battery in 2 hours. Alright, let's talk about those cameras. The Nova 5T gets a main quad camera setup. That's a 48 megapixel main shooter that just so happens to be a Sony IMX586, a 16 megapixel ultra wide, a 2 megapixel depth sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro, which is the lens placed outside of the camera module. Meanwhile, in the punch hole, you get a 32 megapixel selfie camera. Huawei decided to use a 2 megapixel macro lens instead of a telephoto camera to partner up with the ultra wide. What's good is the high resolution main camera can provide you with some very croppable images, and you still do get a digital 2x, so I really doubt users will feel like they're lacking something in the camera department. Given the different kinds of lenses, the Nova 5T has become a very versatile shooter. Camera quality is relatively great on both front and back situations. Images are sharp with really vibrant colors and good contrast. However, the AI optimizer can sometimes be too aggressive in our opinion, especially when HDR is turned on. Low light performance is also impressive, as there were times that it was able to illuminate the whole scene and apply HDR without having to activate night mode. It's far from perfect since you still get visible noise in the image, but using the actual night mode supplements that observation. What I do like about it is that its AI image stabilization was proven very capable of handling shakes to minimize blur. For videos, the 5T can shoot at a resolution of up to 4K at 30 frames per second. It's useful to see that you can switch between the normal field of view to ultra wide to zoom in one shot without having to stop recording. Also, video stabilization is really good and smooth. It kind of feels like we shot this with the help of, given its attractive and premium design, nice display, good cameras, decent battery life, and excellent performance. If you're coming from the Nova 3, there's still plenty of reasons to upgrade to this phone. Pricing can be found in the description box.